What was the story of your first love? Story 1. This was back in the day, August 2000 or 2002, I can't remember, when the internet wasn't seen as such a strange place. I went on MSN Messenger and joined some random chat room for teenagers. I said something, and she private messaged me, and we began talking. I knew nothing about heartbreak or being let down by a girl, so I went in with no qualms or reservations about what lay on the road ahead. We talked a while before she had to go. I found out she was a year older, lived in Western NY, and liked a lot of the same things I did. Things progressed as they do, to us talking every few days, to every day to having regularly scheduled times when we would be online to chat. Days turned to weeks, and weeks into months. She seemed so perfect, so amazing. We liked so many of the same things, had the same goal-oriented mindset. She wanted to be a PA, I wanted to be a lawyer, and was pretty cute with short hair to boot. I'm almost certain this is where I got my attraction to girls with short hair. By December, we had traded pictures, nothing inappropriate, and moved to talking online via IM voice, or whatever it was called, and on the phone. We would talk for hours on end about anything and everything, and learned what staying on the phone and not saying a single word meant, how saying nothing could say so much and be an incredible feeling. We always talked about meeting, hated how we were separated by such a distance until finally I took the initiative, put on my best effort, told my parents a white lie, and caught the first bus/train trip I could out there. She picked me up at the station with her friends as we had talked about, and I remember the whole way there my stomach being full of butterflies. I got off the train and saw her right away. There she was. All the butterflies and knots left my stomach as I saw the girl I had shared and opened up to over the last 7 months. She was prettier than her picture, had the voice of an angel, the most radiant smile, and when we first kissed that afternoon, it left me with an intense feeling I haven't experienced again, and don't think I ever will. That night as we sat on her floor watching a movie, we shared those 3 little words, something we had said online and on the phone, but now they meant something. They actually had a deep, passionate emotion behind them. I had to leave 2 days later, and a very tearful goodbye and promises of returning or her visiting me were made. Unfortunately, those promises were not to be kept. We never had to visit again, and as spring gave way to summer, she got a job as a camp counselor nearby. She said she would be waiting, and I wrote once a week as she didn't have access to a phone all the time, and I was at a camp closer to me, working as a CIT. The hot days of summer gave way, and I finally was able to talk to her again on a regular basis. But there was something wrong. She seemed distant and cold right off the bat. I asked if everything was okay, and she replied no. We've all heard the story before. She met someone else. He was another counselor at the camp she worked at. Someone she could talk to and see and touch, and would be around every day. They talked and got to know one another, and one day she said, when they both had time off, they became intimate. She said she was sorry but knew this wasn't going to work anyways. The distance was just too great and too complicated. I didn't know what it was. It felt like the plug had been pulled on the bathtub. That was my heart, my soul. I didn't get angry because I didn't know what to do. I wished her good luck and goodbye. I felt sorry for myself for a while. My friends and games helped get things off my mind. I never talked to her again, but every now and then as I pass through a hospital or study for my anatomy exam, I think about that short-haired girl with the cute freckles and wonder if she thinks about me too. I hope she followed her dream and is doing something great like she always wanted, helping people and making a difference. Maybe our paths will cross again someday, but in this large world of ours, most likely not. And now you know the rest of the story. Story 2. I was 12 when I met him. I was a bit awkward and lanky, a year into puberty, so still dealing with skin issues, and not yet fully developed. He was just before puberty, so still very boyish. We were friends, mostly because I was the only other person in the school with a Game Boy Color in Pokemon, and one of the cords for battling each other. So we would furiously compete. We continued to be friends as we both went through puberty, and things were definitely platonic for him. I, however, thought he was wonderful, and would have done anything for him to show romantic interest in me. The next year, in 8th grade, I developed physically, and got help from a dermatologist for my skin, and I became more conventionally attractive. He had seen me all summer, so it remained platonic, but other boys started to notice me, and not in a positive way. I couldn't help the fact that it was a Catholic school, and the uniform looked good on me. Boys started making unkind comments about my appearance, and so he started defending me and getting into trouble for it, while I started wearing my uniform several sizes too big to hide my body. We went to separate high schools. He went to public high school. I went to an all-girls Catholic school. We still saw each other from time to time, but he never seemed to really notice I was a girl. Eventually, we drifted apart, but I still held this little bright spot of affection and admiration for him in my heart, as he was my first offender. My junior year of high school, 9/11s happened, and this full wave of patriotism swept the country. A lot of people decided they were enlisting after high school, he included. We had stopped seeing each other in person, but we still talk online. We were just too busy. Well, after graduation, his mom decided to have a big graduation party, and I ended up on the invite list. I decided to go because I still have feelings for him. I remember when he arrived. He'd been working out all year to get into the Marines. He wanted to be ready. He was very attractive. I remember his mom taking my hand and leading me onto the patio and saying, "And here's the one you remember." He looked up, and I realized as he did he hadn't seen me in 2 years. He dropped his glass and was very awkward about cleaning it up. His mom seemed very amused by his reaction. We spent most of the night talking, flirting, and playing Pokemon on emulators he had on his computers. I stayed until 2 a.m. when he offered to drive me home. I let him, and he told me he had missed me. I told him I missed him too. He smiled and said he'd come see me again when he was home on leave. He came home for a long weekend, right before he was being deployed to Iraq, in 2003. I remember he drove over to my house, picked me up, kissed me, and told me he'd been dreaming about doing that the whole time he was in basic training. He asked me if I would be his girlfriend and wait for him. I told him I would. I was still fond of him, and it felt very natural. We spent that weekend practically inseparable, like living in a dream. I promised I would wait for him to come home when he left. He promised to love me until the day he died. He died 3 months later, when his convoy was involved in an explosion. Story 3. When I was 6, there was this girl, a year older, who I thought was really pretty. I decided to ask her out. Just as simple, "Do you want to go out with me?" No big speech, nothing fancy. She didn't say yes. Instead, she pushed me. I fell over, scraped my knee, and started to cry. It hurt, and I was surprised. But it got worse. She then started hitting me, not hard, but enough to make me cry more. Then, she sat on my face. I didn't understand what she was doing. It was weird and uncomfortable. And then she farted, right on my face. I started crying even harder. It was embarrassing, it smelled bad, and I felt completely humiliated. After that, everyone at school called me Fart Kid. It stuck like glue. I couldn't shake it off. Kids would make fart noises when I walked by or whisper "Fart Kid" when they thought I couldn't hear them. Even the teachers seemed to find it a little funny, which made it worse. It wasn't just the smell or the weirdness of it. It was the complete lack of understanding. Why would she do that? I had asked her out nicely. I hadn't done anything wrong. But she had humiliated me in front of everyone. I tried to ignore it, to pretend it didn't bother me. But it did. Every time someone said "Fart Kid," I felt a hot flush of shame. I started avoiding her, and anyone who had seen what happened. I didn't want to be reminded of it. It changed how I saw girls. Before, they were just people. Now, I was wary. I didn't understand them. They could be nice one minute, and then fart on your face the next. For a long time, I was scared to ask anyone out again. I didn't want to go through that humiliation. I was scared of being laughed at, of being pushed down, of being, well, farted on. Eventually, the name faded. Kids moved on to other things, but I didn't forget. It was a weird, confusing, and embarrassing experience that shaped how I saw relationships for a long time. It taught me that people can be unpredictable, and that sometimes things happen that you just can't understand, and that sometimes you just have to deal with being known as the Fart Kid. Story 4. I liked how she shared her brownies. It was a simple thing, a small square of chocolatey goodness, but it meant a lot. From the first day of kindergarten, we shared everything sweet. Gummy worms, lollipops, those chalky little candies that tasted like fruit. It was our routine, our unspoken agreement. One day, feeling particularly brave, I decided to make it official. I found a ring pop, the cherry kind, and slipped it onto her finger. "Will you marry me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She giggled, a bright, sunny sound, and nodded. We were married, in the way 6-year-olds are married, with shared snacks and whispered secrets. It didn't last. One afternoon during recess, I tried to share my juice box with her. Instead of accepting, she looked at me with a strange, serious expression. Then, she scooped up a handful of sand and threw it right in my face. "We're divorced," she declared, her voice firm. I blinked, sand stinging my eyes, and tried to understand. Divorce? We were 6. We had shared brownies. I didn't know what I did wrong. The other kids laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. I felt a hot wave of shame and confusion. I wish I was making this up. It sounds ridiculous, even to me. A 6-year-old divorce over a juice box and a handful of sand. But it happened. It was my first heartbreak, a confusing blend of betrayal and humiliation. It taught me that even the sweetest things can turn sour, and that sometimes relationships end in unexpected, sandy ways. Story 5. We were inseparable, best friends since childhood. He harbored deeper feelings, a romantic yearning I didn't reciprocate. Our friendship, a comfortable, steady thing, was the foundation of my world. Then, my father died. The sudden, brutal loss shattered me, leaving a gaping hole of grief and vulnerability. In my shattered state, he was a constant presence, a steady anchor in the storm. Comfort turned to dependence, a desperate clinging to something familiar. He saw an opportunity, a chance to bridge the divide between friendship and romance. What followed was a disastrous 2-year relationship, a twisted dance of my codependency and his deep-seated insecurities. My grief made me malleable, desperate for any semblance of stability. He, in turn, fueled by a lifelong struggle with feelings of inadequacy around women, saw me as a project, a means to prove his worth. We were a toxic combination, a collision of wounded souls clinging to each other for the wrong reasons. The relationship was a slow, agonizing unraveling. We fought, we cried. We tried to force something that was never meant to be. The lines between friendship and romance blurred, then vanished entirely, leaving behind a bitter, tangled mess. The intimacy we once shared, the easy camaraderie, was poisoned by resentment and regret. I emerged from the wreckage with 2 hard-won lessons. Grief makes you vulnerable, a dangerous state for navigating romance. And the comfortable familiarity of a best friend does not guarantee a successful relationship. Sometimes the roles we play in each other's lives are best left unchanged. We rebuilt a version of our friendship, scared and cautious, but the easy intimacy was gone, replaced by a quiet, lingering sadness. Story 6. Me, 17, experiencing typical teenage hormones. Got a bit tipsy at a local bar/club, legal and normal in Holland, and patted a girl's back. Have no idea why I did it. I've been shy my entire life, barely even had casual physical contact with a girl until that moment. I went through life thinking I'd be alone until she turned around and just smiled. Skip a few weeks. Me, 17, experiencing typical teenage hormones. Got a follow request on Twitter. I accepted. A few days later, she replies on one of my tweets. We didn't stop texting for a year. I'm talking every waking moment. In the first month, she gave me my first kiss, which was exciting to say the least. After a month, we decided to take our relationship further. Me, 17, experiencing typical teenage hormones. Was under the covers with my new girlfriend. I was about to be intimate when my brother opened my door. This never happens, ever, to ask where my mom is. The moment was lost. Ended up being interrupted at a crucial moment by my brother. The next day, I experienced intimacy in peace, which was a special moment. Skip 2 years. Me, 19, experiencing typical teenage hormones. Still with my first love and going strong. Real love can even surprise yourself. Story 7. Her name was Jen. I was interested in her throughout most of my teenage years. We met at the age of 13, when she asked me about my best friend's age. She was interested in him. That should have been a warning sign. Despite the lack of romantic connection, we clicked as friends almost instantly. We made each other laugh easily. We shared our thoughts about everything. We talked on the phone almost every day and spent time together at least one evening most weekends. I should mention an important fact. I was more fortunate than most kids in the small town where I lived. My father had a good income, and at age 15, I had a slightly used car to drive. It wasn't much, but it was more than most kids had. Jen always wanted me to come over to her house, about a 20-minute drive. We'd spend time together, make each other laugh, and I'd try to hide my obvious affection. Inevitably, she'd have somewhere she wanted to go, maybe a movie. Maybe she was meeting another guy from her school. We attended different schools. Maybe she wanted to go to the mall. Her mom never had the time to do that, and her dad was rarely around. So I would be her driver. I rationalized it in my mind that it was okay because she was one of my closest friends. In hindsight, I find it funny that most of the boys she dated wanted to argue with me, and I never understood why. Now I know it was just teenage insecurity on their part. To be fair, it wasn't like I was always solely focused on her. I dated other girls along the way, but she always disliked those girls. She would find things wrong with them. There was the one girl who was less refined, who wasn't smart enough for me. There was a girl from her school that I actually met because of Jen, who I was told isn't interested in you. She's focused on these other boys at school. But the one that really surprised me was the girl with similar musical tastes. She and I got close quickly. Jen was friends with that girl before we started dating, actually. But Jen stopped talking to her once she started dating me. That is, until Jen called her and told her that I had been involved with most of Jen's friends. That resulted in my first real conflict with Jen. I called her out on her lying and asked her why she would say such a thing. Her response, "I just don't think you are a good match. I don't think you're right for each other." Years later, when the movie Clueless came out, that line gave me such a flashback. I digress. I'm going to leave out the details of a bunch of other stories, like the time I rushed her to the emergency room, or the time she interfered with me talking to a girl by insisting on sitting close to me. Check that, sitting between my legs at a skating rink. Eventually, during our senior years of high school, we found ourselves both single. I decided it was time to let her know the depth of my affection for her. So I tried. I confessed my feelings for her. She laughed it off. I tried again. She told me that she valued our friendship too much to ruin it by being my girlfriend. She tried to set me up with other friends. I got the hint and gave up on her being my girlfriend. I was seen as just a friend, and I accepted it. Coincidentally, this was happening in southern Louisiana. At the time, the legal drinking age was 18. Jem was a few months older than me, so she turned 18 almost immediately after high school graduation. Most kids did, as I was one of the youngest in my class. Jen started going out a lot, but I couldn't join her in the bars. Her time for me quickly dwindled to nothing. We talked a lot less on the phone, since she was always with other people with whom she could drink legally. We never spent time together on the weekends anymore. I came to realize that I valued our connection much more than Jen did. I look back on all the times that Jen used me as her personal driver. Maybe our friendship meant something to her, but it obviously meant a lot more to me. Once I was no longer useful, I was out of the picture. I spent that summer working in my father's business, while I waited for my college semester to start. I was moving about 4 hours away from home, to a town almost no one from my town would go. I was excited to go somewhere new, meet a whole group of new people, and experience different things. 3 days before move-in day, Jen shows up at my work. She is visibly upset and asks me to come talk to her outside. Standing in the parking lot beside her car, I ask her what's wrong. She started to shed tears. "I don't want you to go. I want you to stay here. I want you to stay close to me." I'm not sure what would have been the best way to respond to those words. I'm sure the look on my face could best be described as incredulous. I had 1,000 things go through my brain that instant, most of them being some variation of "is she serious? Now? Of all times? Now?" I looked down, closed my eyes, and clenched my fists. I took a deep breath. Then I looked up at her and put my hands on her shoulders, keeping her literally at arm's distance. "No, I'm moving. I hope you have a wonderful life, Jen. I have to get back to work." I heard her sob as I walked away, but I never turned around. She drove off without another word. A few months later, I heard from a mutual friend that she had a child. About a year after that, she tried to reach me through my parents when I was back home for my cousin's funeral. But I was in the shower, and I declined to call her back. Last I heard, she's had a good life. She married when her child was around 3 years old, and by all accounts, the guy is a good man. They've got several kids of their own now. We haven't spoken in almost 20 years. Story 8. She was the first girl to tell me she cared for me deeply. So as someone who had poor experiences with relationships and who was very, very lonely, I took it seriously and became very attached. The whole relationship was unhealthy, with a lot of arguing and negative comments, and me just dealing with it for affection. She was unfaithful with numerous people, from shared acquaintances to strangers she met online. And this happened from literally day one until we broke up a year later, when I finally found her online dating profile and could no longer convince myself that every relationship has ups and downs. Now the more I reflect without romanticizing things, the more I realize she was just a difficult person. I could write a book of the things I ignored in the name of affection, so I'll leave it at that. Happy ending though, after her, I spent a lot of time alone, recovering and doing a lot of personal growth, working on the whole value yourself before, until I was ready to find someone else. I've been in a relationship with someone who is, literally, the difference between night and day in this case. The hard times aren't periods when we hurt each other with our problems. There's something we navigate together, supporting each other as a team. Rather than feeling drained or tired after time with her, if anything, she's where I go to recharge. Being with her is possibly the best thing to ever happen to my self-esteem, my outlook on life, to ever happen to my life, period. Well, being with her, does it count as being with her anymore when you're engaged? Story 9. I was in my senior year of high school. Never had a girlfriend, no romantic encounters, no first kiss yet, no real official date to a dance, nothing of that sort. Just basketball and school for me. September 12, 2011. We were doing skits in biotech for some product or something. I see this girl wearing a fake beard and trying to act like Billy Mays. Rest in peace, by the way. She was wearing a fake beard and pretending to be a guy. I was like, wow, she's so funny and comfortable being herself, not to mention she is adorable. I watch her go back to her seat and was like, I have to talk to this girl. Ends up sitting back down in the desk right in front of me. I'm like, wow, is this real life? So the next day I asked her for the date on an assignment we were turning in. Even though I knew the date already, I'm so sneaky, and introduced myself then, but she knew my name already. And I remembered hers, and chatted for a bit. Turns out she's a year younger junior, fine, not a problem. Added her on Facebook, later then sent her a message that night, September 13, which took me all of the courage in the world to do. And we had a nice talk, and I ended up giving her my number to see if she really was interested or not. She texted me immediately, and we had playful texting and in-class conversations for the next few days. That Friday was the Aloha dance after the pigskin football game for our school. I told her she should go to see my dance moves, and she accepted. Get to the dance. An hour later, I could not find her, and I could not reach her through her phone. So me and my friend were about to leave to go bowling instead, but just by pure luck, we ran into her on our way out of the dance. We danced the night away and met up with my friends, and we shared a first kiss on the last slow song of the night. My first kiss, September 16, 2011. Never will forget. That next week I asked her to the homecoming dance through a scavenger hunt around the park by her house. Ending line was, I only have one shot at this, so will you go to homecoming with me? And then I playfully shot her with a Nerf gun. A week later, the dance comes. It's literally magical, sparks flying the whole bit, running around holding hands, dancing, and kissing the night away. After the dance, we spent some intimate time in my car. Then as I'm walking her back to her door, we became an official couple. October 9, 2011. We had our ups and downs for almost 2 years till August 23, 2013, we broke up. I was able to make it through my freshman year of college with no problems, and I would always come home and visit. She was a week into hers and was already having trust issues, and I most likely definitely overreacted, and we broke up. It's been a terrible back and forth, trying to get closure and decide on what we want to do. I have never stopped caring for her. I'd have tried spending time with other girls, but nothing's quite the same. Nothing feels right. No spark or connection like with her. My first love is still going, even though we are not currently together. I can't imagine spending time with another girl. It's not the same. She made me who I am today, and we have done so much together. It feels like it was only a few months together, but time flew, and it was almost 2 years. I have to get her back. It's my goal now, right after finals are done in a week. Story 10. It started in 2nd grade. He was blonde, blue-eyed, wore glasses, and we teased each other constantly. I was completely smitten. Over the next 4 years, we had an on-again, off-again attraction, but never mutual, until 6th grade. A friend of mine tells me after class that he's planning to ask me out in advanced art. Advanced art arrives, I say yes. We date for 2 weeks, and I end it because he starts sitting on the bus with someone else. The next 2 years are a repeat of the 4 years before 6th grade, with us having feelings for each other, but never at the same time. We end up going to different high schools, and he moves to the next town. I think it's finally over. I run into him at a local amusement park during my junior year of high school. He's working as an attendant. We have some playful flirting, but I have to leave. We exchange numbers. College starts. By my sophomore year, he sends me a text. I text back. He's going to school in Boston. I'm in stores, CT. I take the bus up to spend time with him. He kisses me. I never see him again. Story 11. Arrived at a caravan park to work. Saw her. Liked her. I'm Scottish, she's Polish. I wanted a connection between us. She didn't want to be used and forgotten when she went home. I pursued her, made promises, and she slowly came to need me. She went home. I followed. Continued to visit, Skype call. I went to sea to work. It was hard. After 5 months, I came home to Scotland. She followed, moved into my mom's house. I went back to sea for 8 months, leaving her alone in Scotland. We called /stite. It was harder than before. I came home. She's asleep next to me right now. Story 12. It was 5th grade. Me and this girl were best friends since kindergarten, and we even share the same last name. She asked me out in the library, and I didn't know what to say. I said yes, but at the time, I was very confused. It turned into one of those typical elementary school relationships. We essentially just spent time together at recess, but that was about it until 7th grade, first year of middle school, or for us, it's called junior high. We started to actually do things. I was also her first. I had my first kiss with her, and it was quite awkward, I might add. Eventually, it just kind of faded. It wasn't in a bad way, though, and even though people say I was just a friend, I argue that it was somewhat of a mutual decision. We each decided to be friends. We sort of agreed that our relationship would be better as a friendship. Still best friends with her today. I don't see how everyone's relationships end badly. Every one of my relationships, except this one, ends with like a month of reduced contact with the person. Then we go back to being friends like nothing happened really, and not reduced in a bad way. Story 13. I was very interested in her when she had a boyfriend. We still ended up being quite close, up until she broke up with him. I waited a few months and asked her out, but she wasn't interested, and claimed that she couldn't understand how I misinterpreted her. I guess friends just share the same blanket while watching a movie in the dark in my basement, according to her. A few of her friends told me that she did have feelings for me but was hesitant to act on them. Or something like that, I don't know. I didn't handle it well and kept trying to mend things, as no one had ever taught me how to interact with girls. My dad is very work-focused. So yeah, I made things worse, and then just stopped talking to her, as I assumed she didn't want me bothering her anymore. Apparently that wasn't even the right thing to do, as she was extremely upset and said that she still really cared about me, which I still don't fully understand. I still didn't talk to her for most of last year, senior year of high school, and then she had a potential pregnancy situation with someone from our school, which really bothered me. I wasn't entitled to be upset since we were never official, but I just had to watch. I felt terrible. I watched the only person I've ever truly cared about, family isn't very close, almost derail her life instead of going to a good school for a degree in something she was really good at. Turned out she wasn't pregnant. I was relieved for her, kept it to myself, but I still hated knowing what happened. I tried spending time with her a few times over the summer, but it was awkward and didn't go well. I don't really talk to her anymore, but I wish I did. I miss her every day, and it still hurts. I pretend that I'm over her, since we never had an official thing, so I won't look weak to my friends, but I'll probably always care for her, and she'll be with someone who doesn't appreciate her. I fell for her as a person. I appreciate who she is, what she likes, and how she acts. I appreciate the way she hugs, and I appreciate the way she laughs. I appreciate the little run towards me that she does when we walk together, because she is scared of birds. I don't even mind that she doesn't like trucks. I like trucks. Hell, I even appreciate the face she makes when I make a silly joke. I still miss her every single day. She was my best friend after all, and I know deep down that I always will. Story 14. We went to the same school. She was a bit shy, so we never spoke, but she was very interested in me. Usually it feels like the guy pursues the girl, but this time it was the other way around. She then made a plan to get my attention, and it worked. We spent some time together, but we didn't become intimate. She said she didn't want to be intimate if we weren't going to be in a committed relationship. At the time, I thought it was good to be single and didn't want that. She convinced me, and now I'm very glad she did. We are still together, and I care for her more now than I ever did, and I care for her more and more every day. Before I met her, I never thought I would find anyone, but she found me. I am sure there is someone out there for us all. Story 15. He was a good-looking new guy at school. I was surprised that he asked me out. Too much too young, ended up with him being unfaithful after 18 months. I'm certain he was unfaithful the whole time. He pressured me into a situation I wasn't comfortable with after he ended things when I found out about the unfaithfulness. I got pregnant, and my parents strongly encouraged me to terminate. I hated myself for missing him and wanting him back despite it all. Story 16. So yeah, there was this art kid in my sophomore year. Total headphone wearing, sketchbook doodling cliché. Thought he was deep, turns out he was just clueless. We vibed on books and music, hung out at cafes, the whole intellectual connection thing. Turns out he was just being friendly, and he was crushing on my bestie. Epic fail on my part. I went full-on sad girl mode for weeks, the whole dramatic poetry and angsty playlist thing. We're still kind of friends, but it's awkward. Bottom line, don't confuse being nice with flirting. Story 17. College freshman year, I got hit with the feels. Met her during orientation. She was from out of state, quick wit, killer laugh. We were inseparable, late-night talks, food runs, the whole college romance starter pack. But she had her sights set on bigger things, grad school, career, the whole 9 yards. I was still figuring out if I could skip my 8 a.m. classes. We knew it was a temporary thing, but we rolled with it. When summer hit, she bounced. We kept in touch, texts, calls, but the spark was gone. It just fizzled out, no drama, just life. Sometimes I think about her, about those late nights. It was a good time while it lasted. Story 18. Met him at a party, older dude, smooth talker. Made me feel like I was the only one in the room. Classic. Booked up, then it got messy. He was still with someone. Said it was complicated, that he was gonna leave her. I was young and dumb, believed him. We were sneaking around. The whole traumatic affair thing. It was a rush at first. Then the guilt kicked in. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't walk away. He was like a drug. Eventually, she found out. Total meltdown, screaming the works. He played the victim, blamed her. I was done. Told him to kick rocks. I learned a brutal lesson about trust and toxic people. Story 19. We were in the same theater group, and she was this ray of sunshine, always laughing, making everyone feel good. We were cast as the love interests in this cheesy musical, and it was kinda awkward at first, but then it got real. We were practicing lines, hanging out, just vibing. We had this dumb inside joke about a song from the show, and we'd sing it to each other when we were bummed. Opening night, we were both nervous, but we held hands backstage, and it was like instant chill. We had this crazy chemistry on stage and the audience loved it. After the show, we danced together, just us. It was like a rom-com scene. We're still together, years later, doing long distance in college, but we make it work. She's still my favorite person, and I still make her laugh. Story 20. We met online on a gaming forum. Instant connection, funny, smart, we just clicked. We talked for hours, played games, just being ourselves. We started talking about meeting up, but he lived miles away. We tried the long-distance thing, letters, gifts, the whole romantic internet thing. It was kinda cute, like an old movie. Then, he started ghosting. Canceling calls, ignoring texts. I knew something was up. Then, he dropped the bomb. Met someone local, someone real. I was gutted. It was like he ripped out my heart. We never even met, but it was real to me. I learned that online love is mostly a fantasy, a painful one.
That's a wrap for this video. Make sure to leave your relatable story down in the comments. I would love to make a video on them. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.